All individuals depicted in the narrative are over the age of 18. As time progressed, the sense of loss intensified, and the emotional distance between my wife and me grew palpable. With each passing day, I came to the realization that the connection we shared was irreparable, and the possibility of her return was slim. I recognized the need for a tangible connection, and thus, I sought any opportunity to be near her and engage in conversation. The attending physician repeatedly conveyed her desire to maintain physical distance. Please allow me to explain the situation. I became upset when I promised to come with the prosecutor next time. I asked him to check if there were any such directives in the hospital. Interestingly, this approach proved effective, as bureaucratic formalism was on my side. Consequently, it was me, her husband, who came to the hospital to get her. When Rebecca saw me, she stopped. I was disgusted with her. I could see it in her eyes. While it would have been unpleasant, the drug she had taken made it less so. She looked a little pale and half asleep. As she approached the vehicle, she greeted him with a neutral expression and proceeded to the back seat. I refrained from speaking excessively, as the doctor had instructed me to do. He indicated that I had become the primary source of irritation for his patient. We proceeded with our respective tasks. I inquired about the availability of water in the cottage and whether I should procure some for my vehicle. He paused at a fairground pavilion near the road and proceeded to acquire a liter bottle of water. She consumed the water rapidly, depleting nearly a third of the contents. We then resumed our journey. Rebecca's annoyance with my daredevil ISM was evident, and the silence that ensued only added to the tension. I proceeded to the highway, where the speed typically ranges from 95 to 100. "Where are we going?" she inquired. "Home. Where are the children?" "At the cottage." "Take me to the cottage." I turned the car around, navigating a desolate road to the nearest solid gap. A faint smile graced her face, indicating her appreciation for my uncharacteristic composure. I gazed into the mirror, contemplating the urge to embrace her fervently, yet I was gripped by a single concern: her commitment to my relationship. I would like to discuss the possibility of living separately. I have come to the conclusion that it would be beneficial for both of us to do so. Olivia is deeply concerned about you and Alex, and he is generally reserved when it comes to expressing his emotions. However, it is evident that they have both matured significantly over the past few days. They have shed their childish tendencies and now behave in a manner consistent with adults. I believe that I can offer a valuable contribution to their development. The most significant benefit for them will be to see you, and to know that you are nearby. I will be direct. I dislike seeing you, but I understand that you have limitations. His wife smiled at him, and we proceeded to drive in silence for a considerable amount of time. We reflected on the fact that our summer residents were not aware of our visit. I paused the car to avoid disturbing Rebecca by speaking on the phone and instructed my son, Alex, to activate the boiler and commence the bath. My mother and I are en route to your location. His wife extended her hand and said, "Hello, kitten. How are you without me?" "I'm fine, too. See you later. Bye." Following that, a smile graced his wife's face, and we continued driving in silence once more. Upon entering the village, Rebecca requested that the car be stopped and took a pill. She explained that the pill would only enhance positive emotions, and that it would make her feel slightly inhibited and unperturbed. This condition of the children's mother was a little discouraged. She changed as if steam had been released from her. My mom looked at Rebecca and was pleased with her genes. The first thing, of course, was to go to the hospital. Olivia volunteered to go with her mom to wash up, and then they sat down at the table. Setting was not to my father's comfort, but the atmosphere was otherwise pleasant and subdued. I relocated my bed to the children's room and arranged the mattress in the same location where the unfortunate incident occurred. Given my late shift, I had been awake for nearly 2 days, and despite strong coffee, I was still quite fatigued. At the cottage, he removed his shoes and reclined to adjust the pillow under his head as if he had just fallen asleep. When I awoke, I found myself covered with a blanket at 6. I had slept for 12 hours, and at midnight, I woke up. As the sun was rising and the fog was clearing on Village Street, I saw a lone figure. I jumped out to her. "Rebecca, what are you doing here?" I asked. "I haven't had a man for a long time. I wanted to find someone, she replied in a colorless voice, almost like a robot. Maybe I'll come over. I haven't had a woman in a long time. It was midnight, so I slept for 12 hours. The sun was rising, and the fog was clearing on Village Street. He suddenly saw a lone figure, and he jumped out to her. Rebecca, what are you doing here? He asked. I haven't had a man for a long time. I wanted to find someone, she replied in a colorless voice, almost like a robot. Maybe I'll come over. I haven't had a woman in a long time. No, I don't like you. Okay, let's stand together. I'll wait for the woman, and you'll wait for the man, he said. She shot me an angry look and went into the house. I realized that now there was another problem. I had to change my wife's brain somehow. I didn't know how to do it yet. At lunch, my son came running and called me, Dad, hurry up, let's run, feed the chickens, and work on the car. I informed her that I did not appreciate her actions. I suggested that we stand together, and she agreed. I then informed her that I would wait for the woman, and she would wait for the man. She looked at me angrily and went into the house. I realized that I now had another problem. I had to change my wife's brain. I didn't know how to do that yet. At lunch, my son came running and called me, Dad, hurry up, let's go. Feed the chickens and work on the car. We reached the pond, and Rebecca and 3 men were there. That's it. Prepare a camera on your phone. We come out from behind the tree when I call them, and they turn their faces. You take them off and go straight home without looking back. Describe the situation to your grandfather. Hey, who's that shouting? Come here. Thanks. It's recorded, I replied, putting my phone in my pocket. We arrived at the pond, where we saw Rebecca and 3 men. I instructed her to prepare a camera on her phone. We emerged from behind the tree when I called them, and they turned their faces. I removed them and went straight home without looking back. I described the situation to my grandfather. He asked, Who's that shouting? I replied, Thanks. It's recorded. I put my phone in my pocket. The man who threatened climbed up to the level of my old army boot. I did not wait for the duel, but just hit the other 2. At this time, having abandoned their prey, they were already running along the shore in different directions. Why did you come? She asked. It's not enough for me, my wife expressed her displeasure calmly. The words of my beloved touched my soul, but I tried to. The situation escalated when the individual climbed up to the level of my old army boot. I did not wait for the duel, but instead, I attacked the other 2. At this time, having abandoned their prey, they were already running along the shore in different directions. Why did you come? It's not enough for me. My wife expressed her displeasure calmly. The words of my beloved touched my soul, but I tried to maintain my composure. We were walking along the path. I was behind her, and you said that there have been no men for a long time. A long time ago, 2 days ago, and I was waiting there for you to come. That's it, that's it, that's it, my girl. We're together now. See, everything is fine. Silly, are you with these on purpose so that I can come sobbing? She nodded her head in agreement, and she added, almost in a whisper, I decided to give you a second chance. I understand that you just couldn't make it there, but here you are. If you love me, you will definitely come, and you came. My beloved, from the childishly naive reasoning expressed by my wife and her sincere faith in the miracle of the love call, tears involuntarily flowed from my eyes. Myself, she didn't cheat on. I decided to give you another chance. I understand that you were unable to make it there, but here you are. If you love me, you will definitely come, and you came. My beloved, from the childishly naive reasoning expressed by my wife and her sincere faith in the miracle of the love call, tears involuntarily flowed from my eyes. I didn't cheat on her either at the hospital or here, in her understanding. I had to feel that another man was with her and jealous. If I love her, I flew to her on those very wings and saved her, taking her with me in a cozy and reliable embrace. The fact that I came to the hospital to pick her up and took her with me meant nothing to her. Now, I came to her with my soul at the call of her. I was taken aback by the revelation that Rebecca had engaged in intimate relations with multiple partners. This revelation left me in a state of disbelief, and I returned to the hospital with her. Upon arriving, I expressed my love for her, and our reunion was confirmed. My father approached us with an axe in hand, urging us to proceed indoors. He began to hasten our pace, anticipating the attention of onlookers. Rebecca's transformation was evident as she focused her affection on me, often whispering endearments. I demonstrated my love for her by coming, and now we are reunited on a soul level. My father approached with an axe. "Let's go inside," he said, hurrying us. People had seen Rebecca like this before, but this was a new development. I had become the center of the universe for her. She kept her loving eyes on me and often whispered, "Darling." This transformation amazed not only me, but everyone in our house. I returned to the house, and after that, Rebecca and I went to the SAA. There, she told me about how she had made love to several men at once. "Are you crying?" she asked. My wife was surprised. "It's my joy, honey, that you are so smart, so caring, and so loving." My wife became sad, having realized that I was not happy with her rich new experience. I was amazed, as was everyone in our household. I returned home and, after that, Rebecca and I went to the SAA. There, she told me about how she had made love to several men at once. "Are you crying?" I asked. My wife was surprised. "It's my joy, honey, that you are so smart, so caring, and so loving." My wife became sad, apparently realizing that I was not happy with her rich new experience. "With other men? Did you not like that?" "I studied with others. I wanted to surprise you," Rebecca said in a sinking voice and sighed heavily. "No, not at all. I'm sorry that I wasn't there with you. I wouldn't have been with you. Then, you weren't with me at all, and now I'm going to do it anyway." "With whom?" "Honey, I'll do whatever you want. It's completely dark outside. You go home. The kids are probably already worried that we've been here so long." "No, they feel good. They're only thinking about each other right now." "Well done. Good kids have grown up." I heard noises at night. I left the house and I look, and they are doing our business in the gazebo. "It's so good for them, Rebecca, but it's not good when a brother and sister do such things." "Why?" I told them it was time for them to go home, as I suspected they were already feeling worried about how long we had been there. However, they seemed content and focused on each other. I commended them for their behavior. I then described the noises I had heard during the night. I explained that I had left the house to investigate, and I discovered them engaged in a private activity in the gazebo. I acknowledged that it was a positive experience for them, but I also pointed out that it was important to remember that they were part of the family unit. I continued by expressing my love for my wife and the desire for them to be happy. I then asked Rebecca to consider the impact of their actions on my wife. I acknowledged that I had not thought about it, but I asked her to please consider the potential consequences of their actions. Rebecca expressed her agreement with me, and we proceeded to the gazebo, where we were greeted by my wife. They are an integral part of our family, and it is essential to nurture this bond. A healthy relationship fosters mutual love and support, which benefits all involved. Recognizing the potential for conflict, I chose to address the issue delicately. Perhaps you have a different perspective on this matter. Rebecca's enthusiasm at home contributed to a positive atmosphere. We proceeded to have tea, and my approach seemed to be effective. Subsequently, we retired for the night. I rose late in the morning, and the rest of the family was already having breakfast in the living room. I recalled a previous conversation from the day before, which I found amusing. I looked sternly at my son and daughter, and they immediately understood my point, blushing slightly and lowering their eyes. I decided to conclude the conversation until I returned home. We began to pack to return to the city. I have to go to work in the morning, and there are less than 2 weeks left before the school year. It is reasonable not to go back and forth, and I was afraid to leave alone with Rebecca and leave our children here, reasonably believing that they would not stop there. I decided to conclude the conversation until I returned home. We began the process of packing to return to the city. I have to go to work in the morning. With less than 2 weeks remaining before the start of the new school year, it is reasonable not to go back and forth. I was concerned about leaving Rebecca alone with our children and reasonably believed that they would not stay there. It is possible that this is not in the best interest of their education. However, they do not cause alarm in such a relationship with my son and daughter. Since a nightmare is a nightmare, I decided that in a month, the children, who have gained enough experience, should be returned to the city to their circle of communication with their peers. By evening, the car was loaded. We proceeded to bid farewell to my parents, assuring them of our intention to visit over the weekend if circumstances allowed, and then returned home. We drove in silence for a while, and then I addressed the children. My dears, let's engage in a rendition of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. That should suffice. Otherwise, indolence may set in, hindering your pursuit of a life partner. I expressed my desire to have grandchildren who would carry on the family name. Dad, can I have Alex's baby? We bid farewell to my parents, assuring them of our intention to visit over the weekend if circumstances permit. We proceeded home in silence for a while, and then I addressed the children. My darlings, let us engage in a rendition of Romeo and Juliet. This will suffice. Otherwise, indolence will set in, and you will fail to seek a life partner. However, I do desire grandchildren who will carry on the family name. Father, may I have Alex's baby? That is not the issue at hand. You will be confined to your own residence. We are not eternal. We will depart, leaving you alone with the children. If any difficulties arise and they periodically visit, there will be no one to assist you. If a partner is from outside, they also have parents and grandparents who will come to their aid if anything occurs. Father, what if, for example, I get married? I would like to discuss the possibility of my future spouse and I cohabiting with your children. I am concerned that this may result in conflict with my husband. How would you recommend I proceed in this matter? The primary concern is that this arrangement does not negatively impact your relationship with my husband. I am in agreement with you, Alex, and I am confident that this will be beneficial for all parties involved. However, I am hesitant to commit to marriage at this time. I am looking for someone similar to Olivia, someone with whom I can establish a strong and comfortable rapport. I would like to visit Alex, but I'm worried about how my husband will react. I'm trying not to let it affect our relationship with his family. I like the idea, but I'm not sure if I should get married soon. I need to find someone like Olivia, someone I can feel comfortable with. Rebecca, you didn't stop loving me when I was in the hospital. I didn't stop either. I've always loved you, but you were sick of not feeling her. Wait, stop the car. It turns out that everything I did in the hospital to regain your love was in vain. She couldn't come to me because she was already with me, but I didn't see or feel her. Yes, honey, I have been waiting for you to understand that you should exit the vehicle. The wife stood on the side of the road. Tears glistened in her eyes. It's my fault. I fabricated all sorts of nonsense to explain to myself why my beloved locked me in the hospital. Rebecca, get up. It's not your fault. I'm sorry I did that. There. It's a shame to remember. Shame gave me a feeling of victory. Well, don't cry. It's all over. We are together, and I have never stopped loving you for a moment. I helped my wife get up from her knees. I know your mother told me that you weren't allowed in until you threatened the prosecutor, and then I was immediately discharged. Cute. What a man you are. He pulled me out of such a swamp. That's it. I'm fine. Leon, go, said the wife. I handed her a handkerchief is an essential item for any respectable man, always kept in reserve for such occasions. Rebecca blew her nose, emitting a resonant sound that prompted a shared laugh between us. The children gazed at their mother in a state of astonishment, grappling with the incredulity of the occurrence before their eyes. Their mother, in a light-hearted manner reminiscent of bygone times, entered the vehicle and swiftly secured her seat belt. This exemplifies our stance. What are we fighting for? A handkerchief, always kept in the car for such occasions, was used to dry Rebecca's nose. The children looked at their mother in surprise, not believing their eyes. Their mother, in a cheerful and self-assured manner, entered the car and fastened her seat belt. What are we waiting for? Who are we waiting for? Are we waiting for the rest to be over? How I miss home. I smiled when I saw the children in the rearview mirror. They immediately became sad, realizing that their favorite activity was over and their couple was no longer there, but only Alex's sister and brother. Rebecca asked the children about something and asked me what kind of mess she could expect at home. Oh, how beautiful you are, Rebecca. We are awaiting the conclusion of the events that transpired. I experienced a sense of nostalgia for my home. I smiled when I saw the children immediately become sad, realizing that their favorite activity was over and their couple was no longer there, but only Alex's sister and brother. All the way, Rebecca was asking the children about something and asking me what kind of mess she could expect at home. "Oh, how beautiful you are, Rebecca. It just came alive because, when we left, you just didn't have a face on," said the neighbor at our house. "We were in the village, fresh air." "Oh, well done. Your own no neighbors. We only harvested brooms. We earn milk." "Well, where are you stuck? There?" My wife called, carrying bags, heading to the entrance of our house. "I'm coming. I'll just close the car," I replied, and picked up my suitcases, hurrying to my beloved wife and children. The neighbor at our house noted that the property had recently become active, explaining that it had not had a face on. We were in the village, enjoying the fresh air. "Oh, well done. Your own no neighbors. We only harvested brooms. We earn milk well. Where are you stuck?" My wife called, carrying bags, heading to the entrance of our house. "I'm coming. I'll just close the car," I replied, picking up my suitcases, hurrying to my beloved wife and children. That's how our story ended. The daughter found a real man for herself, but the son somehow had a harder time with it. Well, nothing. Time will tell. All the characters in the story are over 18 years old. This year, for no reason at all, the whole family decided to celebrate Christmas at the cottage. Well, as the whole family decided, the father decided. I've heard enough from my friends. Nature, silence, beauty, freedom, do. That marked the conclusion of our narrative. The daughter found a suitable partner, but the son encountered difficulties. The next chapter will reveal the outcome. All individuals in this account are over the age of 18. This year, for reasons unknown, the family elected to celebrate Christmas at the cottage. The father made the decision, and I concur. I have no desire to engage with my neighbors, who are likely to be displeased. To be candid, I did not wish to attend. It is evident that boredom is a fatal attraction. I would prefer to remain with my companions. But can you contest your father's decision? My mother exhibited minimal enthusiasm as well, but her father, who was quite obstinate, prevailed upon her. He is indifferent to the fact that, in contrast to his friends, our cottage is not situated in a conventional village, but rather in an antiquated, rural cooperative. The project is not without its challenges. As we all know, the father is a stubborn man who is not easily persuaded. He insisted on going, despite the fact that it meant traversing a snowy landscape and spending the night in a dilapidated cottage with no electricity or running water. I, for one, was not enthused about the prospect of spending the night in such a place. However, my father was determined to go, and so we set out. The dilapidated summer huts, which are inhabited only during the summer months, were in disrepair. The road was not maintained, and electrical wires were stolen 2 years ago. As a result, electricity was cut off, and the area was not developed. I had reservations about this venture, so the three of us would be confined to the table, with no access to amenities such as a walk, TV, or computer. Despite my reservations, we arrived by lunchtime the next day. However, my mood deteriorated further when my father's car got stuck in the snow, and I had to use a shovel to free it. Nevertheless, we arrived after spending 2.5 hours, instead of the usual summer hour. Unlike most of the surrounding houses, our house was still in disrepair. However, the father was a kind man, warming the house from the outside and sheathing it with. He proceeded to apply boards to the exterior, creating a small room with an even tinier hallway. A stove was present, though it was small and unsightly. However, it sufficed for the house, and we were not at risk of freezing. After the construction work, a significant amount of scraps of boards and other pieces of wood remained. We were moving the food we had brought with us when my father suddenly remembered that he still had to the interior of the structure was compact, with a small room and a narrow hallway. It contained a stove, though it was diminutive and aesthetically unappealing. However, it sufficed for our needs, and we were not at risk of experiencing the cold. Following the construction work, we had a substantial amount of wood scraps and other materials. We were in the process of moving the food we had brought with us when my father suddenly remembered that he still had to return to the city to attend to some business. He planned to meet with us again in the evening. At present, we are responsible for the housework. I am lighting the stove, while my mother is setting the table and cleaning. However, she appeared to be cognizant of the fact that my father would be away for a brief period. "Dad, what if you get stuck in the snow? Who will push?" I inquired, hoping that he would take me with him. "What if I return to the city to attend to some business, and in the evening, he will join us again. For the time being, we will attend to the household duties. I am lighting the stove, while my mother is setting the table and cleaning." However, she appeared to be aware that my father would be away for a short time, and she did not seem particularly surprised by his decision. "What if you get stuck in the snow?" I inquired, hoping he would take me with him. "What if I somehow manage to get rid of it and stay home during this time? We're not going to leave my mother alone in an open field, are we? I'll find a way to get there. I'll call you when I arrive so you don't worry." I had to accept it. My father left, and I trudged off to dig the frozen boards out from under the snow. By evening, everything was ready. The stove hummed merrily, and the house became warm. I stripped down to my t-shirt. The table is set. Mom changed into a beautiful dress that was about 15 centimeters long above the knee. In general, Mom looked quite provocative, especially when she turned around sharply and the wide bottom of the dress flew up. However, today she is allowed. I thought no one would see her anyway, except her own father. He had seen her in a different way. I'm a son. I'm allowed a little more than outsiders, too, just because I live with her and also saw her. The table is set. Mom changed into a beautiful dress that was about 15 centimeters long above the knee. In general, Mom looked quite provocative, especially when she turned around sharply and the wide bottom of the dress flew up. However, today, she is allowed. I thought no one would see her anyway, except her own father. He had seen her in a different way. I'm a son. I'm allowed a little more than outsiders, too, just because I live with her and also saw her in a swimsuit and underwear, though only briefly, of course. She did not know about this last case. Nevertheless, every time she turned around, waving her skirt, my heart sank sweetly, and I could not take my eyes off her, hoping that now I would see something like this. But all my hopes were in vain. They were only waiting for their father. He called, as promised, said that he had reached the city, everything was fine, and he would be back soon. And now it's 9. She was wearing a swimsuit and underwear, although only briefly. She was unaware of the last case. However, every time she turned around and waved her skirt, my heart sank. I could not take my eyes off her, hoping to see something like this. Unfortunately, my hopes were in vain. They were only waiting for their father. He called as promised, said that he had reached the city, everything was fine, and he would be back soon. Now it's 9 o'clock, and he's still gone. We were already starting to worry. Mom reached for the phone to dial it, but the phone itself started playing in her hand. "Yes, where are you? We've been waiting for you for a long time." I could only hear my mother's voice. "Where is why?" Mom's face suddenly became serious. "What? 00, and he's still not responding." We were already starting to worry. Mom reached for the phone to dial it, but the phone itself started playing in her hand. "Yes, where are you? We've been waiting for you for a long time." I could only hear my mother's voice. "What should I do? Will it be for a long time? What about us tomorrow on the holiday?" "Okay, don't apologize. I understand that." "Okay, make sure you call, otherwise we're worried about you." "Well, what is it? Is he coming soon?" I asked my mother, who put down the phone with a confused look, although I already guessed. What should I do? Will it be for a long time? What about us tomorrow during the holiday? Please don't apologize. I understand. Make sure you call, otherwise, we're worried about you. Is he coming soon? I asked my mother, who put down the phone with a confused look, although I had already guessed that something had happened, and it was not good. Just now, when my father was driving to us, he stalled again in the snow. He hit something in the snow, and something broke off in the car from below. It's good that it's not far from the highway. In general, he has now called someone from the city. Unfortunately, my father experienced a mechanical issue while driving to us. He stalled the car in the snow, which resulted in a part breaking off. Fortunately, it is not too far from the highway. He has contacted someone from the city to repair the vehicle, but they will not arrive until tomorrow. On Christmas, We will meet him at the location. Mom smiled sadly and sat down at the table. What to expect now? It has been dark outside for a while, and the lack of electricity in the house was compensated by candles. I will take him to the service center to have him repaired, but he will arrive only tomorrow, on Christmas. We will have to meet him there. Mom smiled sadly. Sit down at the table. What should we expect now? It had been dark outside for a long time. The lack of electricity in the house was compensated by candles. There were about 5 of them, all different, all half-burned. We placed them on the table, providing decent lighting only for the table itself. The rest of the room was somewhat dark, allowing us to see where it was open. Mom pointed to a bottle of wine for me. The wine looked real by all the... We had 5 different wines, all of which had been opened but not fully consumed. We placed them on the table, providing adequate lighting. The rest of the room was somewhat dim, allowing us to see the open areas. Mom pointed to a bottle of wine for me. The wine looked real, as indicated by the cork plug tightly jammed into the neck. Mom, I'll take a look. Do we have a corkscrew? We have one, somewhere. Mom, I'll find it now. Without getting up from her chair, she leaned to the side, reaching for the bag on the floor. I froze. I became aware of certain indications, including the cork plug firmly inserted into the neck of the wine bottle. Mom, I've got it. We need a corkscrew. Do we have any? She furrowed her brow. I'll take a look now. Without rising from her seat, she tilted to the side, reaching for the bag on the floor. My heart beat rapidly, but then my mother sat down with normalcy. Open it. She extended the corkscrew. I was permitted only half a glass of wine, since I was still young, according to my mother's countenance. As she stated, if my father had been with us, I wouldn't have gotten that either. She did not restrict my heartbeat rapidly, but then my mother resumed her usual posture. She proffered the corkscrew. I was permitted only half a glass of wine, since I was still underage, according to my mother's countenance. She stated that if my father had been present, I would not have received that either. However, she did not restrict herself. The wine was not vodka. There was only a slight noise in my head, and a pleasant warmth spread through my body. I observed my mother, but for some reason, my thoughts were not the same at all. My mother, herself inebriated, fell into reminiscences. Oh, it's unfortunate that my father is not with us. I remember we were seated by candlelight, in the same manner, when I decided to marry him. It was at my residence on Old Christmas. My parents went on a visit, and the wine is not vodka. There was only a slight noise in my head, and a pleasant warmth spread through my body. I looked at my mother, but for some reason my thoughts were not the same at all. My mother, herself intoxicated, fell into memories. Oh, it's a pity that my father is not with us. I remember we were sitting by candlelight, the same way, when I decided to marry him. It was at my house on Old Christmas. My parents went on a visit, and our lights were turned off in the whole area. It's the same way. Winter, quiet, candles, and it's just the 2 of us. Mom, tell me how he persuaded you to get married. Huh? It's interesting. Yeah, well, okay. She took a sip from her glass and poured the rest of the bottle into it. I took a sip from mine and got ready to listen. Well, at first, we talked just like that, and then they somehow moved on to my clothes, my appearance, and he showered me with compliments. I understand. In the current climate of skepticism, it is important to verify information before accepting it. I recall needing to take napkins from the shelf, but I neglected to return them to the table immediately. I will serve, Mom. She closed her eyes with a dreamy expression, and I touched her neck from the side. I could not see where because of her loose hair. I went up to her. I did not see the hair in the way. Mom pushed them away and pointed to the point. Once more, at the level of the collarbone. I bent down to get a better look at where she was pointing. In the dim light, in the shadow of her head, I felt a sudden touch on this area. Even for myself, I immediately recoiled. Yes, here she confirmed. Mom's voice sounded as if she were still there. In the memories of that day, she shuddered slightly, gasping for breath. That's enough. No need. I reluctantly pulled away from her. I stayed close to her. Mom, what's next? Next farther? I inquired about her needs, and she indicated that she was debating whether to talk. I asked her not to, but she continued. I noticed that her head tilted back, giving me access to more of her. I heard that, and she gathered her strength and gently pulled my head away. She said that she was doing it just like her father, and I felt dizzy, like I did back then. She said that if I liked it, she would let me do it again, but I said that it wasn't worth it. I then asked her to tell me more about her decision. I will reiterate the points I have previously made. Mom, what is the issue? Very well, I will comply. Is that acceptable? She relented. Mom, may I take a seat on the couch? It is rather uncomfortable. We relocated to the creaking, sagging sofa, and Mom lifted her head. It lasted a considerable amount of time. I was enjoying it, and it did not seem sufficient to me. Furthermore, there was no guarantee that such an occurrence would transpire again. Mom, you have finally pushed me away. Breathing heavily, leaning back on the creaking sofa and unkempt appearance of the mother conveyed a clear sense of displeasure. What are you doing? The mother inquired, her tone tinged with disapproval. Didn't you like it? No, it seemed to me that you were lying. I saw it. I felt it. The mother sighed, her voice reflecting a hint of resignation. Listen to me. This is wrong. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed what we were doing, but I'm uncomfortable with the fact that I did it with you. Well, Mom, what's the big deal? I wasn't going to give up so easily. It was worth the effort. Don't you understand? We're mother and son, not lovers. That is not the reason they are called that. They are doing something completely different. Wow, do you still know how my heart is beating? It was nice. Mom, wasn't it nice for you? Well, it was, but nothing came of it. Did it? Are we still mother and son? That's enough. In any case, it's time to go to bed. Let's go to bed and clean the table and wash the dishes. I've heated a whole bucket of water over there. We'll wash it tomorrow. I'm tired. Initially, it was assumed that I would sleep on a cot brought from home, with my parents sleeping on the couch. However, since there are only two of us left, I convinced my mother not to use the cot, as we could fit on the couch together. She agreed almost immediately. She was also not happy about setting up another bed. I laid out the sofa, and while my mother was sorting out the bed linens, I went outside to the toilet. The village was completely dark, and the silence was unusual for someone who has lived in a city. After I finished using the bathroom, I was about to go back outside when I heard a firework go off nearby. I thought that someone else in the neighborhood must have come to celebrate, because it was very unusual for us to have visitors. I brushed the snow off my shoes. We need to ask Mom who lives there. Mom had already made everything up and changed into a nightgown. It was long and knee-length, but with the village was bathed in an eerie darkness, and the silence was uncharacteristic for a city dweller. After completing my business, I made my way to the porch when a firework soared overhead, its red sparks dancing in the night sky. I heard a series of explosive sounds in the distance. Someone else had arrived to celebrate, I thought, as I brushed the snow off my shoes. We need to ask our hostess who lives there. Mom had already retired for the evening, changing into a nightgown that was long and knee-length, but with thin straps at the top. I turned to her side. The bedclothes hadn't had time to warm up yet. What was that popping? Had anyone else come to this wilderness besides us? She asked. Yeah, I confirmed. There are fireworks going off down the street. There are 3 houses there. Do you know who lives there? No, I rarely come here. My father probably knows. Okay, go to sleep. She turned her back on me. Son, what are you doing? Just don't touch it, she warned. After that, we made eye turn to face her. The bedclothes had not yet warmed up. What was that popping sound? Had anyone else come to this wilderness besides us? She asked. Yeah, I confirmed. There are fireworks going off 3 houses down the street. Do you know who lives there? No, I rarely come here. My father probably knows. Okay, go to sleep. Mom, what are you doing? Just don't touch it. Love, do you understand what we have just done? Yes, I whispered. I'm sorry, Mom. She swallowed again. Don't ever do that again. And it all? Mom, I'm sorry. I felt completely guilty. No, that's enough for today. My ear caught on the words. Today is that her figure of speech, or exceeding my wildest expectations. She really hints that today is not allowed, but tomorrow. While I was thinking about it, Mom got up and turned away from me. She washed her face and called me to wash. Do you understand what we just did? Yes, I whispered. I'm sorry, Mom. She swallowed again. Don't ever do that again. And it all? Mom, I'm sorry. I felt completely guilty. No, that's enough for today. My ear caught on the words. Today is that, her figure of speech, are exceeding my wildest expectations. She really hints that today is not allowed, but tomorrow. While I was thinking about it, Mom got up and turned away from me. She washed her face and called me to wash up. I put someone in the stove to keep warm at night. Mom made the bed anyway, and we finally went to bed. I woke up in the morning when she got up a long time ago and was cooking breakfast. Today, she dressed as if for departure. A warm sweater, a long wool skirt, tights, and boots. When she saw that I had opened my eyes, she confirmed, "Get up. We'll be going home soon. My father is already called. Go have breakfast." I jumped up. I quickly put on my clothes. It was chilly in the house. My mother put a plate in front of me, sat down opposite me, and watched me eat with a slight smile. She then began to wash the empty plate. I went up to her and said, "Mom, maybe you shouldn't." "What is it?" she asked softly. "Don't," I said. "My father will be here soon." "Hurry up," my mother said. My father arrived at the gate and stepped into the yard. When he saw his mother's face in the frost-covered window, he smiled and waved to her and proceeded to the porch. My mother did not have time to get dressed. My father's footsteps sounded in the hallway. She finally met her father. He spread his hands and said, "Have you been here long enough? Am I looking out the window? Are you waiting for me? Do you miss me? Did you even celebrate Christmas?" He then noted, "Let's go home." "Yes, everything has already been collected." Mom pointed to the bags by the door. There she was on her way to the porch, not yet having had the chance to get dressed. Her father's footsteps were already sounding in the hallway. "Finally, you've met your father," she said, as he spread his hands. "Have you been here long enough? Am I looking out the window? Are you waiting for me? Do you miss me? Did you even celebrate Christmas?" He got ready, and they went home. "Yes, everything has already been collected." She pointed to the bags by the door. "There's only the dishes left to fold after breakfast." "Well, put it together," her father said. "I'll take these to the car for now." "Son, remember," she said in a quiet whisper, "we won't do this anymore." My heart almost broke when I heard footsteps in the hallway. "Okay, Mom, we won't do that. We'll only be there when Dad's not here, right?" Without giving her a chance to answer, he hugged her with one eye, squinting out the window at his father, who was walking towards the house.